accounts more seamlessly. You might remember, Ryan.
The move your money movement.
Well, remember when you actually couldn't change your phone carrier?
That's right.
Unless you switched your phone number. And the FCC issued an order saying, no, let's give consumers a little bit more power to vote with their feet. That's exactly one of the laws that had been on the books. It sat dormant, but during my time there, we wanted to make that a reality because we saw the billions of dollars that large banks, credit card companies were able to harvest because they create an obstacle course to switching accounts.
Yeah. So you brought up debanking. So let's move to that one, which is not the one I have in here, H1, but let's start with H2. This is Mark Zuckerberg appearing on Joe Rogan's podcast. And I want people to notice that when he's about to say the word consumer, he pretends to forget the name of the agency, because it isn't helpful to him, I think, to call it the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, because you're starting on your back foot when you're a company that says you're against that. So let's roll H2 here, and then I want to get you to respond to this Zuckerberg allegation.
And we had organizations that were looking into us that were like not really involved with social media, like I think like the CFPB, like this financial. I don't even know what it stands for. It's the financial organization that Elizabeth Warren had set up.
Oh, great!
And it's basically it's like we're not a bank.
The
right?
debanking section.
Yeah, no. So like we're not a bank, right? It's like what does Meta have to do with this? But they kind of found some theory that they wanted to investigate, and it's like, okay, clearly they were trying really hard, right, to find some theory, but I don't know, it kind of like throughout the party and the government, there was just sort of, I don't know how this stuff works. I mean, I've never been in government. I don't know if it's like a directive or it's just like a quiet consensus that like we don't like these guys, they're not doing what we want, we're going to punish them, but it's tough to be at the other end of that.
What was it like?
Well, it's not good. I think. Well, the thing that I think is actually the toughest, though, is it's global, right? So, and really, when you think about it, the U.S. government should be defending its companies, right? Not be the tip of the spear attacking its companies.
All right. So Zuckerberg, who later kind of implies, in this clip, he had said that because they were getting pressure to censor COVID content, then all of a sudden the CFPB comes after them over, which he implies is part of this kind of pressure campaign against Facebook. So what was CFPB's role in going after Facebook?
Well, it's actually funny in some ways because this is a company that just about 5 years ago launched a big ploy to start its own currency, to start its own way
they had a name for it. What were they going to call it?
It was called Libra.
That's right.
And what you saw was an attempt, it was a surveillance program, essentially, that if they could embed payments throughout their whole empire of digital properties, they would be able to track payments across the board.
So like cookies to the next degree.
Yeah, and in some ways that is really what many say is a goal to ultimately move toward personalized pricing. And look, the truth is, if you call companies, some of these big tech companies, we are a social media company, please. We know that their tentacles are all over, and many have significant aspirations in banking, lending, and payments. We have seen that with Google, we have seen that with Apple, and there are laws on the books, Ryan, that are financial privacy laws. There are laws about how you can traffic credit information like the credit bureaus do. So I'm not going to comment on the investigation. They disclosed it to their investors, the nature of it, but to suggest that some of these companies are not engaging in some of the same exact practices as big financial conglomerates, I mean, is laughable. I'll tell you that this is also, I think, part of the reason the CFPB has been targeted is because you have big tech conglomerates that are looking to get into banking, lending, and payments, and they don't even want a minor speed bump in that process. They don't even want, I think, to be held to the same standards that when consumers are defrauded, or if there's errors in their accounts, or if their information is being harvested and trafficked to those overseas, I don't think they want to even touch that. And the truth is, there's laws on the books, and the job of the CFPB was to enforce it.
So this appearance came after Mark Andreessen, venture capitalist, was also on Joe Rogan. Let's move to Mark Andreessen. I think that's H1 here.
We have this thing called independent federal agencies. So like, for example, we have this thing called the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, CFPB, which was it's sort of Elizabeth Warren's personal agency that she gets to control. And it's an independent agency that just gets to run and do whatever it wants, right? And if you read the Constitution, like there is no such thing as an independent agency, and yet there it is.
What does her agency do?
Whatever she wants.
What does it do, though?
Basically, terrorize financial institutions, prevent new competition, new startups that want to compete with the big banks.
Really?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
How so?
Just by terrorizing anybody who tries to do anything new in financial services. And
Can you give me an example?
Well, I guess, debanking. This is where a lot of the debanking comes from, is these agencies. So debanking is when you as either a person or your company are literally kicked out of the banking system.
Like they did to Kanye.
Exactly, like they did to Kanye. My partner Ben's father has been debanked.
Really?
We had an employee who
For what?
For having the wrong politics, for saying unacceptable things. Under current banking regulations, here's a great thing. Under current banking regulations, after all the reforms of the last 20 years, there's now a category called a politically exposed person, PEP. And if you are a PEP, you are required by financial regulators to kick them off of to kick them out of your bank.
What?
You're not allowed to have
What if you're politically on the left?
Well, that's fine.
No.
because they're not politically exposed.
So no one on the left gets debanked?
I have not heard of a single instance of it.
So much to unpack there. Let's start with his PEP claim. What is a politically exposed person?
Well,
is there anything accurate in what he said there?
There's a lot there. First of all, a politically exposed person certainly would be someone who's like a government official, who, for example, could be subjected to bribery, other things. But putting all of the acronyms.
You completely misclassified what a
well,
politically exposed
I think the
person is.
point, though, I would say there's a place where I think is important, which is that when it comes to debanking, I don't think people should ever lose their account because of their exercising their religion, speech. And I'll tell you, one of the first things I did years ago was to put forth a stronger policy that made it clear when that type of discrimination or debanking ran afoul of the law. Guess who sued to block it?
Who's that?
It was actually the bank lobby and the Chamber of Commerce. Then more recently, we went through some court process.
What's their business rationale for wanting to block that?
I have no idea other than they were saying that, well, that only really applies to lending. It doesn't apply to banking. And we could go through the argument about whether the law prohibits that. So I said, okay, we're going to propose a rule. We're going to use a different procedure to make clear that you cannot close someone's account or otherwise take a negative action like that based on some of these core things. We did not hear a peep of support from the big banks and others. So I think we need to start looking at some of the facts here. We should not allow deplatforming and debanking unless there is some sort of legitimate reason. And I will share with you, we have heard a lot from the banks and others about this, but what we haven't seen is them showing their data. And one of the big places that they are closing accounts is using algorithms. And sometimes they might not even know the answer why they are closing those accounts. But the idea that the CFPB was somehow, I know he's conflating a whole set of other regulators. And we also know that there are companies that he had invested in that were repeat offenders and that the CFPB had to take multiple actions